Well, welcome to part 2 of the overview. See what I mean? So I went to pause the recording because the fire alarm was a bit much, and instead I stopped the recording. So I have been experiencing stuff like this for 3 months trying to put this together, and I will not be deterred, and I hope you will not be deterred. I just don't think this is a sign not to do it. Um, so there you have it. So thank you for your patience in listening to this. I still hope it's fruitful. So this is a shorter video here, and I'm just going to bring it down to the personal and introduce you to Saturn and Pisces and what's next. So as I was sharing, as these planets go around their own orbit in the sun, the transpersonal planets, so Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and the Kuiper belts take a longer time than the personal planets. Like Mercury goes around 3 times. That's why we have 3 retrogrades each year of Mercury for about 3 weeks. Pluto takes 248 years, and Mercury, again, does it in 88 days. So there you have that. Saturn takes 28 years, and so you will have a Saturn return every 28 years in your life. That means that wherever Saturn, whatever zodiac sign Saturn started in at your birth, 28 years later, it will return to that zodiac sign, and you will have a return. If you're blessed and live a full life up into your 80s, you will have 3 Saturn returns. And we'll talk about that in the Saturn and Pisces series. Jupiter takes about a year to go around through each zodiac sign, taking 12 years to go through all of them. So you will have a Jupiter return every 12 years. So when you're 12 years old, 24-year-olds, and we'll talk, that is covered in the Jupiter and Taurus video and questions. The point here in the overview is that every year we do experience some planets, these archetypal patterns, working and having a conversation with some zodiac signs in our lifetime. And when they do, we will experience that call and response and the change that they're asking us to make as well. The planet is acting through a different actor every time it's through that zodiac sign, and has a different expression and archetypal patterns focusing on different things. And you can bring that down to you personally, where that planet is in your own birth chart. It's all connected. These cycles, however big and huge and large they are, to however small they are, we are not separated from these energies. We are made of the same things of Earth, the dirt, the trees, the plants, and we're also made of the same thing that the stars and planets are made of. These cycles and synchronicities are connected. They're interconnected, this big grid of co-creation. What you do matters, and it goes out into that co-creative grid. And what happens out there affects you. You do not exist in a vacuum, nor does any other life force. And not only is it vertical, it's multidimensional. The dominant patterns that we were born into that are already in motion, this fate, things like capitalism and colonialism and toxic patriarchal, they're not forever. But how fast we evolve into the qualities of Aquarius is really our own, based on our own individual choices, healings and reactions, and soul contract to our fulfilling our own soul's destiny. And if we all do that collectively, we will be aligning with the energies that want us to evolve and the larger evolution. What we do in each of these cycles, or don't do, informs the potential of the next cycle. It's sort of like how what you do in 2nd grade influences how far you get in 3rd grade and 4th grade and etc. You don't get to skip anything. We will experience these cycles and these conversations and these archetypal patterns differently because we're all unique. And we all have our own birth charts and alignments that are interacting with them. Some will be more intense, some will be less intense or more subtle or more obvious. That's why not all the questions in the inquiry will resonate with you, and let that be okay. There are plenty that will, so focus on those. The consequences of all of our actions, individually and collective, is the definition of karma. Karma itself is not good or bad, right or wrong. It's simply there's an action, an energy put out, and a consequence to that energy being put out. Whether that's a thought, a belief, something said, an actual act, there's always a consequence, always, and it is connected to everybody. That is the outer and the inner and the inner and the outer. The collective is personal and the personal is collective now. We can't see, feel, or know the whole of it, and we're not meant to. But astrology does help us find our coordinates for our own path and the collective path in this evolution from our fate to our destiny, if you will, by living our purpose, living our soul contract as a co-creator in this co-creative process of cycles and timing. We all did come here to do different things and are at different levels in our own frequency and evolution. So with that, that's the overview. What is available to you then is a small video if you'd like it. On Jupiter, last year, Jupiter went through Pisces, Aries, and Taurus. So there's a small video, and the Word document has a series of inquiries and dates that you can reflect on and answer. There's a video on Venus going retrograde in Leo, and then a series of questions. If you don't really care about the videos, you can go straight to the questions and trust your own intuition on which ones resonate with you. There is also a video on both the eclipses that happened in the fall. Every year, there are two sets of eclipses that happen, a solar and a lunar, usually around the spring and the fall. And they always happen on zodiac sign axes, like Virgo and Pisces, for example. And then Saturn in Pisces, I'm going to touch on now, but it is so big and so rich that I have its own series I'm creating that you can sign up for and register. There will be a link in the Word document, and there'll be a pay-as-you-can-go small fee for 14 lessons that will be pre-recorded and you can listen to at your own pace. I will host one live session where we can talk about what you're learning, and I will give each of you who register your own Saturn dictate based on the information you give me in your registration. And we can talk about and look at where Saturn is in your own birth chart. So these 14 lessons take Saturn and Pisces through each of the zodiac signs with a couple extra videos that give you some context to put it all together. It's over 16 hours of content, a live session, and you'll get a personal Saturn experience out of it. I feel this is so important in this trend with the metacycles. Again, Saturn is this social. Here's why I think it's important. I'll give you a little taste of why it is important. Saturn, we always want to follow because Saturn is the taskmaster. And what Saturn wants us to do, he's the taskmaster, the father figure in the sky. He's the energy that wants you to dot your I's, cross your T's, clean out the attics, pay your taxes, clean the house. He wants you to get your work done before you go play. He wants to have your house and life in order, because if you don't, you won't achieve your soul contract, your agreement. You won't get to your destiny. So Saturn is not punitive. He's always in service of you staying on your path. In a nutshell, Saturn wants you to grow up. It wants you to mature and to grow up in every way. It doesn't want you to have your inner child that's wounded from age 5 running your life as a 55-year-old human being. It wants you to take care of that inner child and have your adult run your life. He often gets a bad rap because he wants you to do the hard work, the discipline, the commitment and patience, obligations, responsibility, accountability. That is all in the Saturn realm. Saturn also rules time as we know it. So if you remember back in this visual here, Saturn has a side of it that's shining towards the sun and is doing personal work, while part of Saturn is also facing the transpersonal, impersonal planets. It's a social planet where it brings the impersonal to the personal through relationships, through our collective being together. Saturn is not a trickster or out to punish you. He's a teacher. It's a tough love type of teaching. And you can lean into what Saturn has to offer through self-compassion, courage, vulnerability, and lots of soul prayers. Saturn is going to always activate this tension between the old and the new in us personally, as well as in our society, in our culture. Saturn will always want us to change because growing up means letting go of old ways that are not serving our maturity and our growth, and adopting new. It means taking risks sometimes. It means letting go of comfort and going to your growth's edge, living a charged life, not comfortable, but a charged life. It means a tension between the status quo and the new, and the unknown and the uncertain. It's also a tension between the inner versus the outer authority and authenticity. All of that is really up. So we each have a Saturn dictate in our personal birth chart that we are working our entire lifetime. So it'll help you explain a lot about your own life and your own challenges and your own triggers, and you can work with that. Again, you have a Saturn return at age 28, 28 years later, and 28 years later, and we talk about that in the series. So around age 56 to 58, often that's what we call a midlife crisis. And so it's really important to look at where Saturn is in this. So if Saturn is the energy and it's going through Pisces, so it went into Pisces in 2023, and it will be in there until 2026. So you're in the middle of this change. What's interesting about Pisces is the symbol for Pisces is a fish. Let's go here, is a fish. Actually, I have it down here, or that double two-sided, the fish. And oddly enough, in the age of Pisces, we developed and evolved one of those fish, but not the other fish. Like the other fish is a fish out of water, and that is what we're being asked to evolve today. So Pisces is a water sign. It's mutable. It means it's adaptable. It's about the mystical, spiritual qualities, dreaming, imagination, intuition. And in the series, we'll go much deeper into the archetypes and the qualities of Pisces. But needless to say, it's like Saturn, we've only developed the personal side. In Pisces, we've only developed one of the fish. One of the fish is active, and we overdid that in the age of Pisces by having one guru. Isn't it interesting that Jesus, was a fisherman? We had one spiritual way. You're either Catholic or you're this or you're that. It's one way. It's one way, either or, in or out. It's not a fluid boundary. And that is from the shadow expressions of patriarchy and other karmic forces in play. But we are now being asked to cultivate and bring online the other fish, the fish that is facing the transpersonal, the bigger, the multidimensional, the cosmic, the spherical. So we can bring grace we have been living in a world without grace, with one fish active. And when we move in a world without grace, we constantly co-create disgrace and disgrace ourselves. This is not, again, to be in a shaming way or view, but rather we've unplugged and disconnected from our soul esteem, our soul essence, the divine feminine, our light, we've abandoned and disconnected from this part of ourselves that's here, our multidimensional ability, our ability to become mystical adults. So Saturn wants us to grow up specifically through Pisces to become this mystical adult. We're actually think about living in this horizontal plane. If you put your arms out, that we've been living in this flat horizontal plane with one fish, and we are being asked to evolve vertically into our multidimensionality, into more cosmic mystical parts of ourselves. Pisces is a paradox for our learning and growth because we're always connected even when we feel disconnected. We're never alone even when we feel lonely. When we feel disconnected, we're really just unplugged from our own how our own power and light flows in us and through us, through love. It's like being in a room with electrical outlets. It's all wired, but we're not plugged into any of it. So we'll go into deeper parts of this in the 14 lessons with Saturn. But basically, it's common sense that fish cannot survive in the air and the pure oxygen that the mind thrives on. They must be in water, in our emotions, and in our heart. The age of Aquarius, the currency in the new era is the energy of the heart. It's about relationships and connection. That is the currency of the future. A Pisces cannot be understood with the mind. You have to go into the water and be with the fish, into your heart, into our emotions. And we've spent the last 2,000 years cultivating the mind and ignoring the water, our emotions, our empathy, sympathy, our psychic fields, our energy systems and pools, and the human heart. Saturn in Pisces is cultivating a cosmic mystical heart that's much, much bigger than our human heart. So on this path between our human heart and our cosmic heart are many patterns, if you will, and archetypal energies that we need to negotiate. None perhaps more powerful than our shadow and mystical victims, our strategies that we used as a child to be protected, to be safe, to have security and esteem and worth. This really is about healing our inner child collectively and individually so that our adults are actually adulting and growing up in a mystical way. We are surrounded now by individuals whose inner wounded children are actually running their adult lives and bringing on others because they're so desperate, if you will, and fear-driven. So that's what a lot of the triggers and the work has been about. So Pisces is about connection, but not the kind of a connection that Aquarius is about. Aquarius is about how all humans are connected in a one-world humanity. Pisces is about how we are all, as beings, connected to the psychic, mystical internet, the cosmic love that's available, the grace web that's out there. So it's a collective archetype as well, like Saturn is kind of a social collective archetype. So I hope you can sense and feel the power of Saturn being in Pisces in this 2.5 cycle that's underneath these other metacycles. It's big. It's so big that I really wanted to do this extra series. So with that, I'll end this. Please do explore the overview, this overview, Jupiter in Pisces, Venus retrograde in Leo, the eclipses. And I do encourage you to sign up for the Saturn and Pisces series. Again, it will be available in February into March with the live session somewhere in early March there in the middle of the series. You will not be sorry. Namaste. I appreciate you taking your time to explore and be you and show up for your own soul contract via my work. Take care.